Well, good morning. It's the appointed time. We'll call to order the meeting of the MAPS 3 Citizens Advisory Board of October the 24th, 2013. The item for consideration on our agenda first is item 2, the minutes of the September the 17th meeting of the board, where we met in workshop fashion with the members of the council. And the minutes of that meeting have been provided in advance. Are there questions or concerns or modifications? Shall we approve those minutes? It's been moved that we approve those minutes and seconded. Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. The minutes are approved. Item 3 would be the minutes of our last meeting of the Citizens Advisory Board on September the 26th. Are there corrections or additions to those minutes? It's been moved and seconded. We approve the minutes. Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The minutes are approved. David, you want to review the revenue and expense report for us?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have in your packet the revenue and expenditure report for the period ending July 31st, 2013 and August 31st, 2013. And we have two of them. If you recall, last month we didn't have one. That was because of the close of the fiscal year. So I'll start off with the period ending July 31st, 2013. Pardon me. On the revenue side for the month, $8,820,029. Fiscal year is the same, $8,820,029, and total program revenue is $317,705,100. On the expenditures for the month, there's $162,831. Same for the fiscal year, since this is the first month, $162,831, and then for total program expenditures of $30,065,692. I'll move on to the financials for the period ending August 31st, 2013. On the revenue side for the month, $8,924,822. For the fiscal year, $17,744,851, and a total program revenue of $326,629,922. On the expenditure side for the month, there's $1,581,743. For the fiscal year is $1,744,574, and total expenditures on the programs $31,647,435. Glad to answer any questions you might have.
Michael Adams, our resident CFO, if you have a question or a comment about these?
No comments, no questions. I'll move approval or acceptance, or whatever we do.
All right. Bob?
Quick question, negative interest in August?
That could be due to chargeback or adjustments. Lance, can you give us a quick update on that?
We had a presentation last year from the Treasury Department, and if we could have them come back again and have an explanation of negative interest and the way that they allocate that. It has to do with earnings and losses on city investments and the way that they mark to market those and then report those back in our financial reports. So that's what the negative interest has to do with.
We have a motion to receive the report. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any other questions or comments? Bob, we had, as Lance has said, we've had this before, and we had the chief investment officer for the city come in and explain it to us, and the marking to market, as Lance said, we got a chance to look at, and I think it's something we'll see periodically. So I don't think it's a sign of anything to be concerned about. Would that be a fair statement, Lance?
I'd say that. It was just curious.
Negative interest? Yeah. One other question maybe for you, David, or whoever. Would we expect that the months of like November, December are the best months for sales tax? I mean, are we thinking that it'll even get better? I mean, this looks good, but is it going to even get better?
Well, we always hope that it gets better, and I always hope that it stays on track, but as you can see that we're still above target, about 5.4% above target.
Yeah.
I think that typically December and January, actually, because that's when we start receiving the tax revenues, that we might see a bump.
Okay. Other questions? All in favor of receiving the report, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The report is received. Thank you. Item 5 on the agenda is a resolution relating to the River Trail connection. David, you want to handle that for us?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 5 is recommend resolution ratifying and approving addendum number 1 for MAPS 3 Phase 1, West River Trail Connection, South Council Road to Northwest 10th Street, awarding contract to Rudy Construction Company. Base bid plus alternates 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the amount of $3,172,049.40, and approving contract and bonds project M3-T001A. This is the first of our trails projects that we put out to bid and received bids, and Rudy Construction was a low bid on this. Happy that Rudy will be working on this. So we were able to not only get our base bid, but we also got the alternates, which included some parking lots and some shade structures that we can put out there along the trail.
I'll just mention as we consider this that Sue and Zane are neither one here, the chair and the co-chair of this committee, but I attended the committee meeting and they I think unanimously endorsed it, did they not, David?
Yes, sir, they did.
So it comes with the endorsement of the Sidewalks and Trails Subcommittee. Questions? Shall we approve it? Been moved that we approve it. Is there a second? Been moved and seconded that we approve this resolution. Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The resolution is approved and ratified. David, that moves us to item 6 on the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 6 is recommend resolution approving the preliminary report for the MAPS 3 Sidewalk Improvements Phase 2, project M3-W002. If you recall, the sidewalk projects are broken into 2 phases, and we've got Phase 1 that actually has 3 projects within it. 2 of those are under construction, another one is in design. But this is the second phase of the sidewalks, roughly the second half of the sidewalk budget. So we have Lindsay Flesher here today with Cardinal Engineering to give us a presentation on the preliminary report.
Welcome. We're glad you're here.
Thank you. Yes, Lindsay Flesher with Cardinal Engineering, here to present the preliminary report on the MAPS 3 Sidewalk Improvements Phase 2. Our project consists of 16 alignments totaling 13.7 alignment miles of sidewalk throughout the city. On this table, all of our alignments are summarized, and you can see their location, the various links, and the wards that they're located in. There are several alignments, so I'm just going to jump through them pretty quick, and then if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Alignment 21 consists of a sidewalk on the north side of Southwest 44th Street between Blackwelder and Pennsylvania Avenue. It's a pretty straightforward alignment. We do have to cross several residential and commercial drives, but nothing too complicated has been found along this alignment. Alignment 22 consists of a sidewalk on the west side of Meridian Avenue from Northwest 36th through Northwest 23rd. For the most part, this alignment is very open. There's a few areas with some significant grade, but there's ample right-of-way to account for the grade and accommodate the sidewalk. Alignment 23 is one of the more complicated alignments involving a sidewalk on the north side of Northeast 63rd Street from Broadway to Martin Luther King. Throughout this alignment, there's significant grade, significant trees, and limited right-of-way. To accommodate a sidewalk, we'll have to work in multiple retaining walls and locations and remove trees. Alignment 25 consists of a sidewalk on the east side of Western Avenue from Southwest 59th to Southwest 44th. Again, this is a pretty straightforward alignment. There are several open areas and a few congested areas, but we can work around them. Alignment 26 consists of a sidewalk on the north side of Southwest 44th Street between Pennsylvania Avenue and May Avenue. Again, this alignment's fairly straightforward. There's several drives to cross, but nothing complicated. Alignment 27 consists of a sidewalk on the west side of Martin Luther King from Northeast 23rd to Northeast 32nd. Again, a pretty straightforward alignment. We are crossing multiple commercial drives and parking, but we'll incorporate them in the design. Alignment 28 consists of a sidewalk along Pennsylvania Avenue from Northwest 122nd to Hefner Road. Very straightforward alignment. The only issue with this one is there are some trees in several areas that will have to be removed to accommodate the sidewalk. Alignment 29 consists of a sidewalk on the north side of Southwest 89th Street from Western Avenue to Santa Fe Avenue. Again, another pretty straightforward alignment, crossing commercial drives, a few conflicts in the right-of-way, but nothing difficult. Alignment 30 consists of a sidewalk along May Avenue from Northwest 10th to Northwest 19th Street. Again, crossing multiple commercial drives and congested right-of-way in some areas, but nothing difficult looking into the design. Alignment 31 consists of a sidewalk along the east side of Portland Avenue from Northwest 50th to Northwest 63rd. This alignment is very open, very straightforward. The only issue with this alignment is that we will be crossing Northwest Expressway and we'll have to coordinate with ODOT. Alignment 32 consists of a sidewalk along the east side of Pennsylvania Avenue from Southwest 15th to Southwest 23rd Street and Grand Boulevard to Southwest 29th. This alignment is a little bit tricky. There is some limited right-of-way in some areas, and there is a potential railroad crossing as well. Alignment 33 consists of a sidewalk along the north side of Northwest 30th Street between Pennsylvania Avenue and Indiana Avenue. This alignment is very straightforward, very open, and makes a connection between two existing sidewalks. The only issue that we have to cross, there's a group of trees very close to the road in one location that we'll have to get through. Alignment 34 consists of a sidewalk along the east side of May Avenue from Northwest 30th to Northwest 36th. Again, for the most part, very straightforward, some congested right-of-way, but nothing we can't work around. Alignment 35 consists of a sidewalk along Pennsylvania Avenue from Southwest 44th to Southwest 59th. Again, pretty straightforward. We've got some congested right-of-way in some areas, and then, as you can see in the picture, some open areas with a worn path, suggesting a sidewalk would be beneficial. Alignment 36 is another kind of tricky alignment along Pennsylvania Avenue from Northwest 36th to Northwest 23rd. There's, again, similar to Alignment 23, some significant grade issues and limited right-of-way and existing retaining walls that we'll need to incorporate into the design, as well as the construction of additional retaining walls to accommodate a sidewalk. Alignment 37 along Hefner Road from MacArthur Boulevard to west of Rockwell Avenue is pretty much the cleanest alignment we have. It's completely open, and there should be no issues during design. As far as the project budget, per our preliminary construction numbers, we believe that all 13.7 alignment miles can be constructed within the project budget. As of right now, we have that total along with a small contingency adding up to the project budget of $3.574 million. As far as the project schedule, our plans are currently under design. We anticipate having them approved in January, moving forward with bidding in February and March, beginning construction in April, and hopefully wrapping up construction by February of 2015. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions? Michael?
David, did I understand you to say this is the last of the sidewalk projects?
This is Phase 2, and this is the entire Phase 2.
And so what will be the total mileage we'll end up with?
I don't know what that total mileage is on Phase 1 right now, but they're still doing Project 3, and I don't have that on top of my head, but I can get that for you. This is 13.7. I'm going to guess it's at least twice that. I think it's closer to 30 or so, but I can get that number, exact number for you.
And I assume we're doing okay budget-wise.
Yes.
Kim?
I have a question on alignment 32, where we do have a railroad crossing that would mitigate the sidewalk. Are there any safety elements that are added to that?
We've been working with the city staff, talking to them about how to approach this and if it may be a better idea to realign this or look at it elsewhere. So we're looking at that right now.
Does this sidewalk service the school?
I don't believe it does.
Service the school?
I can't recall, if you remember, though, that in the master plan, that was one of the top priorities in the criteria. So I'm going to say that it probably does, but is there?
Other questions? Well, I will say, as I said before, I attended this meeting, and I think this comes with the recommendation of the Sidewalks and Trails Committee. I believe it was uniformly approved by them. Just a couple of questions for me. The alignment by number indicates the priority in which these were assessed. Is that right? So
Yes.
we're doing them in the priority order that the master plan, that our plan calls for.
Correct. Yes, we are.
And if there is one missing, would that mean it's either been left out or would have already been done? I think just numerically, we don't have an alignment 24. Has that been previously done, or is that left out?
No, that was actually one that was found to actually be in another jurisdiction because the city limits aren't necessarily on the center lines of the streets.
Okay.
They go from right-of-way to right-of-way. So that one was in the master plan, but it was in the
Not ours to
village,
do.
I believe, yeah.
Okay. Does anybody else have a
I
question?
have one.
Sure.
David, you said that this is the last of the sidewalk. That means we've exhausted the amount of money that was in the map, that we promised to spend.
Yes. Technically, there's still some contingency money in there, and there's a little bit of money in there that will extend on, but for the most part, yes.
But it's about half of what we showed the public that we were going to spend when we did it originally. Is that correct?
It is.
I would like for at least the Sidewalk Trails Committee to come back with some kind of a recommendation as to how we satisfy the commitment that we made. We have a lot of talk about, I hear occasionally about, on other topics about, well, we promised to do this, we promised to do that. This was one of these literal promises. We showed people exactly how many miles, we told them how many miles of sidewalk we were going to do.
Right.
And I'd like to see the subcommittee come back with some kind of recommendation as to how they're going to satisfy that gap.
Remember that there's $4 million in the fund balance that's being used to
I know,
construct some
but that
sidewalks.
wasn't what the promise was. The promise was that we wouldn't say we were going to take the money out of money that we used our police officers with to build sidewalks or that we could build more roads. We said we were going to build 70 miles of sidewalks with MAPS money. And I think I'm voting, as a councilman, I vote every time to go ahead and use the fund balance to do it with, but that's not what we said we were going to do. And still, that's going to take years to reach the 70 miles that we committed to if we take it out of that fund. And it's at the expense of other things that were not committed. It's coming out of general fund revenues. It's not coming out of the one-time capital infrastructure revenues that we voted to do with MAPS. And so I'd like to see some kind of a recommendation, and it probably should start, although Tom, that's more your purview than is mine, but probably, I would think it would start with the Trail Sidewalk Subcommittee that would come forward and say, we think this is how much money it's going to cost to do what the MAPS advertising said it would do, and some idea about where they think that money ought to come from.
I'll get that dialogue started.
I mean, obviously, it's a policy decision at some point in time, but this is the kind of recommending body. I would hope those recommendations would come, and then the council would sift out the policy things. But that's a pretty dramatic shortfall, because I believe it's about half of the 70 miles. That's pretty dramatic.
Well, I'll just say that the subcommittee, I think, shares your interest in doing everything we could, at least in being in their meetings. They've not been given the option of exceeding their budget. And so if we can't exceed the budget, certainly I'll see that the subcommittee considers it, and we'll bring back a recommendation. But I guess the subcommittee, and from my point of view, when we've been told what the budget is and we spent it in accordance with the guidelines and in accordance with the master plan that we developed and then was approved by the council, I don't know what the alternative is for us, but we'll talk about it and we'll bring a recommendation back to you.
Well, no, I'm not suggesting that the subcommittee spend more money than the budget. I mean, that's not what I'm suggesting at all. But
I know.
But somewhere in this process, with the contingencies that are there, that are built in both to the sidewalk subcommittee and the overall MAPS budget subcommittee,
Sure.
somewhere in that process there may be enough money to start to get closer to that 70 miles, because I don't like the idea of having to go into general fund revenues to keep that promise, if there's a way to do it otherwise. Because the general fund revenues that we're talking about are not necessarily infrastructure funds. They're operating funds, more than likely. So I just think it's well that we not ignore it. And I'm asking to go back to the very people I think that are in the business, in fact, of giving the council recommendations. That's
Sure.
that body. Not that they can spend any more money, but I'd be very interested to know what they think.
Well, I think it's a good idea. I think as a part of this process, we're going to find that several of the subcommittees and a good number of the projects are going to find more ways, are going to have ways that they could exceed their budget. And so bringing back a plan for any extra money we have, as among all of the projects, certainly is something that we ought to be thinking about, and we will. Any other questions? Shall we approve this?
I move approval.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded that we approve this resolution. Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. It is approved. That brings us to item 7, and I guess 7, 8, and 9 are all about the state fairgrounds. Is that right, David?
They are, Mr. Chairman, and
Go right ahead.
I'd like to talk about items 7 and 8 together, if I may. Item 7 is recommend resolution approving amendment number 2 for the MAPS 3 Oklahoma State Fairgrounds Phase 1 Project 2 parking lot improvements. No cost increase, project M3-F001A. The construction has begun at the fairgrounds for the parking improvements. As they went along, we knew there was a sewer line that extended underneath that area. During the operations, they found a large void, and then they had a utilities department go out and look at it. Found that there was a collapsed line. That dirt that used to be in that large void had gotten into the sanitary sewer line and gone out. So the utilities department went out there and cleaned it, found that there was some area that was collapsed, and then realized that the line was all starting to look that way. So What we've done is we've got a contract amendment here on the construction contract to make the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust a party to the construction contract. That will allow us to do item 8, which is a change order to include the replacement of that sanitary sewer line, and the Water Utilities Trust is going to pay for that replacement. What we don't want to do is build this brand-new parking lot and all these other amenities that we're going to do, and then next year this sewer line that's imminently going to fail. So the Utilities Trust has agreed that they'll come in and do it at their expense. So this allows us to make them a party of the contract. And like I said, item 8 is the actual change order. So I think you have to vote on them independently.
Right?
So if you have any questions on this contract amendment, I'd be glad to answer.
Bob, did the subcommittee consider this?
Consider it and unanimously recommended approval.
Questions? No questions? Is there a motion? Moved. It's been moved and seconded. We approve. This is item 7 only at this time. Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The resolution is approved. That takes us to item 8.
Mr. Chairman, item 8 is recommend resolution approving change order number 2 for MAPS 3 Oklahoma State Fairgrounds Phase 1 Project 2 parking lot improvements, increase of $126,589.29, project M3-F001A. This is the change order that I just spoke about.
Sure.
Approximately $116,000 of it is the utility, the water trust cost that they will be paying.
Shall we approve it?
With approval, the County Committee reviewed this and recommended approval. And just to comment, there will be just under $10,000 in MAPS funds that are affected by this. The rest of it is paid for by the water trust.
He moved approval. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The resolution is approved. Item 9, David.
Item 9 is recommend resolution approving the preliminary report for the MAPS 3 Oklahoma State Fairgrounds improvements, Phase 2 improvements, new expo building, project M3-F002. This is a preliminary report for the expo building that will be at the fairgrounds. We're pleased to have Todd Gralla here today to give you a presentation.
Hi, Todd. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman McDaniel and committee members. Again, I'm Todd Gralla with Populous. I also have my associates with me from Frankfurt Short Perugia, Alan Brown and Chris Marszewski, in case there are additional questions. So we've proceeded through preliminary design of the new expo hall, which is Phase 2 improvements at the fairgrounds. And this is our preliminary design presentation. So I'll go through some of our primary project objectives first. One key objective was to achieve at least 200,000 square feet of net exhibit space, which is contiguous, in other words, all in one space. That space to be as column-free as possible, significant design and budget challenge, and also provide really good load-in, load-out, good utility delivery to the floor for the users to make the building user-friendly, and also to use good materials that are low maintenance, high durability, because of the use characteristics of the Fair Park facilities. And another big thing is to continue to improve the impression and experience of visitors to Fair Park. We've made really significant leaps in that avenue in the past 8 years with the renovations there, and this project is another big leap in that direction. And we obviously have to achieve all this within our project budget, and through preliminary design we have done just that. So I'll show you our site plan. This site plan shows the existing travel and transportation building and carriage hall, which will be removed to make room for this new building. As you can see, the building easily eats up all of that ground space, as well as a little bit of space to the southeast. The project that you just were made an approval for is Phase 1, which is the parking area to the east of Land Rush Street that also borders May Avenue. Now, our main entry is from May Avenue now from Gate 5, which directly approaches this new building. That's part of the reason that the building faces south with the main entry, with the service area to the north. So we'll go through some of the architectural renderings. This is a view from the southwest looking at the new main entry, vestibule, and ticketing area. We've tried to use as much glass and transparent materials as possible to make the building, to have the inward views of the building and exhibits in that public space, as well as views outside the building to the carnival and other activities that do occur on that site year-round, as opposed to a lot of our buildings now that have solid doors, solid facades, and you can't really see what's going on the inside or outside from the inside, to make the building a little bit more inviting. As we go around the building, we would start to pick up on what some of the materials are. We're using masonry materials on the lower portion of the building, which are the color bands. And by the way, I do have a selection of the primary building materials here. If after the meeting you guys would like to touch and feel those, I'd be happy to show them to you. And above that masonry, which is of course, very important for maintenance, we have insulated metal panel systems, insulated metal standing seam roof, and some translucent materials, which is a cowl wall, which is will allow some daylighting into the public spaces. This is opposite view from the southwest, looking back at the main entry and a secondary entrance vestibule. Another important thing to pick up on is that the toilets, the public toilets that serve the exhibition building on the south also are designed to serve the outside spaces, because as many of you know, we do a lot of events in the parking lots there in terms of carnival and other types of shows, so we need accessibility to toilets, and we've designed these so that they can be accessed from both inside the building and outside the building. And again, going around the building, we have secondary entry-exit vestibules on each of the four corners of the building, so that during major events, such as some of the very large horse shows and trade shows, we can have good connectivity between our various buildings on the campus. And again, back to a view from the northeast, approximately from the area of the Arts Annex. I've got a couple of cutaway views with the roof removed, so you can kind of see the volume of space, and as well as how the space can be used for flexible layouts for different types of shows. It would be a typical trade show layout, maximizing the floor space for trade booths, a typical 10 by 10 booth. Then we have what it might look like if we had a major boat show in the hall with both booths and large exhibits. And the nice thing about this new building is that we do have a very large hangar door on the east side of the building, which will allow large boats, combines, large equipment into this building to be able to host shows that buildings at the fairgrounds have never been able to host before. An auto show, maybe a farm show. So the building has a lot of flexibility in terms of layout and what we can bring into it. This is a rendering of the main entrance hall. The area above the ticketing, the banded area, the area that has the horses shown, is just, we're showing that as a potential location for public art, because most of the visitors coming into this building will experience that space, and we think it would be a good place to put the public art element. And how the hall might look like, this is approximately half the hall in the view if we had an equipment show in that space. So it's a very large space. This is a really fairly basic floor plan. The large area in the center, of course, the tan-colored area is the exhibition hall itself. It's 201,000 square feet of total net space. The entrance hall on the south is kind of the yellow space, and then we've got toilets servicing all four quadrants of the building, as well as concessions servicing each of the four quadrants of the buildings. So accessibility to those guest services is very easy to achieve. And then on the north side of the building, which is on the top of the screen, is our service areas. We have a commercial kitchen, which will serve the food concessionaire at Fair Park, as well as a commissary. We have truck loading docks and storage areas for all of the equipment required to make the building usable. As I mentioned, one of the important criteria was to try to eliminate as many columns as possible in the space. It's a very large building, and what we've achieved is a very good column spacing. We have a 90-foot span, 120 foot by 90 feet across the building, which is very good. So we have a very large open space all the way down the center of the building for flexible exhibits and very large items. Another thing we've achieved is that the mainframe spacing is 60 feet. Now, this is typically 30 feet when we're using a pre-engineered metal building system for cost efficiency. However, we have some very significant experience working with FSB's engineers on the site already when we re-roofed the Cox Pavilion using what we call a jack beam, which supports every other mainframe without a column. And this is the design we're using in the new expo hall as well. So we've basically eliminated every other column, which is great for the flexibility of the space and being able to move large objects around in that building. So here are those floor plans from a floor plan view showing how those large items lay out given our very loose column spacing. Another important criteria for this building is how to deliver utilities to the floor for the users, electricity, data, and the best way to do it is to use a floor box system, and we've chosen a floor box system that is extremely highly durable because we know that given the use of the space, we're going to have objects like tractors and heavy equipment driving across that floor. So we've developed a system, it's in our budget, to deliver utilities and services through the floor, which will be incredibly easy for users to use. Another very important thing is load in and load out of this building. This is not to be considered like a convention center where we have a lot of staff to work loading docks and move things in on a commercial basis. Very many of our events at the fairgrounds involve mom and pop size operations. They come to trade shows with their personal vehicle. They need to unload objects into that building. So having very good at-grade access is incredibly important, and we've provided good at-grade access on the three primary load-in, load-out sides of the building, with actually also 2 truck docks on the north side of the building, which are indicated with the red arrows. So we have very, very good floor access to this building. And as I mentioned, we also wanted to provide that indoor-outdoor access to public toilets to better service the visitors to Fair Park. And this is just an enlargement showing how that toilet vestibule works. When we have an event that's ticketed in the building, we can lock the exterior doors so people can't come in and out of that vestibule. But when we're at an event such as one of the large horse shows or the State Fair annual event, that vestibule can be open and guests can use the toilets from both inside and outside the building. Going to our architectural elevations, these are the west and east elevations, or the end elevations. You can basically see the dark and lighter colored at the bottom is the masonry walls. Above that is metal paneling system. Also in the east elevation, you'll note in the center the very large hangar door, which will allow us to bring enormous objects into the building for trade shows and exhibits. And the main south elevation with the entrance vestibule, public toilets, above those toilet pods are where we have our mechanical units. So they're relatively low for easy serviceability. They will be screened visually, but also provide for effective delivery of heated and chilled air into that building space. And the north elevation, which shows the service area. So here's a brief animation, basically mainly circling around the building to give you a better feel for the architecture, use of materials, and also perhaps how the building might be used. Of course, we anticipate that just like with the current travel and transportation and carriage hall, we will still have a significant amount of vendors and related to trade and food and games, particularly during the fair, outside that building. So we've also provided in our project and in our budget utility services along the outside of the building to service all of those vendors. This is the service area on the north showing the truck docks circling around. The camera's just above the North Coliseum, showing the west end of the building. We've also tried to provide some ample space outside the building for outdoor exhibits that tie into what's happening inside the building. Swinging around to the south, showing the toilet areas and the main vestibule. And you can also see in this animation some of the mechanical units on top of those toilet structures. So walking up to that main entrance, our materials there are actually glass storefront up to 12 feet, and above that to the roof we are using a translucent cow wall material that allows a lot of daylighting but is very low maintenance, and also will shield a lot of the energy concerns related from that southern exposure. Crashed? Okay. Just advance it. Do they have it? Okay. Well, if you've got your hard copy, I can keep going. So the next thing I wanted to point out is the signage and wayfinding. As part of our building package, naturally, we have to do a building signage and wayfinding package. But we kind of consider that this is very important, you know, a very major building that we're building in the core of the fairgrounds. It'll have a huge number of visitors that come to this building for various things, from a Fair of the Heart to horse shows to the State Fair to car shows. And we've actually taken liberty of taking the signage and wayfinding design a little bit beyond that. In fact, we wanted to kind of consider the entire fair park and try to pull everything together from each main entry point, as well as fair gate entry point, to help people find their way better on the fair park grounds, especially when we're holding events like the State Fair, when the grounds are covered with vendors and carnival and other objects which might otherwise obscure your normal route of travel. So we were working on some concepts of some signage kiosks, as well as some kind of wayfinding kiosks and pods throughout the site that are pedestrian scale, that actually have the opportunity to include technology like LED screens, touch screens, more interactive maps that you could click on a building and actually it would list what's happening in that building on that particular day. So we're looking at that, developing those options right now, and those will continue to be evolved as we move forward with this project. And then, of course, schedule. We are currently on schedule, assuming that we receive approvals from this group as well as council, to spend about 5 months doing construction documents before we send plans for review. And then hopefully we're looking at a May bid for the project. We would then have a notice to proceed in August and allow the contractor, the selected contractor, to begin mobilizing and also acquiring certain long lead items, so that immediately following the State Fair next year, we could begin demolition of the travel and transportation carriage hall and begin the reconstruction process. We don't have a full timeline of construction developed at this time, but our ambition is to, at the very most, affect one state fair of Oklahoma. It's a very large building, so the likelihood of being able to build this building in between two state fairs is a significant challenge, but we want to definitely minimize impact on the state fair and the events that occur there on a regular basis. Going on to the budget. Our MAPS Express budget is just a hair over $44.5 million, and this is a general breakdown of where we stand at this point through preliminary design, with the direct cost of construction, or in other words, the materials being about 36.2, and then all of our other items such as fees and bonds. We have an escalation of $1.4 million because the project is not fully designed at this time. So we're projecting that when we actually bid, and knowing that construction start time is basically September, we've allowed for $1.4 million allowance for escalation of prices. And we also have an art allowance, which is 1% of our budget. We have $440,000 for that. We have a locomotive in the carriage hall, which has to be removed or relocated. And we have an allowance of $500,000 for furniture, fixtures, and equipment, which is chairs, tables, other objects that the staff needs to activate the building. And of course, we are also considering, even at this early stage, some alternates, because as the bids actually do come in, and if bids have been coming in as they have been on some of our projects here in Oklahoma City, hopefully we'll have the opportunity to upgrade this project. So we've been looking at some upgraded finishes, and in particular, the integration of some upgraded technology, mostly related to information technology, as I was saying, such as in the wayfinding and displays of what are happening in buildings or in a certain hall or schedule or upcoming events. So we're looking very hard at some real key alternates that make the building a much better experience for the public, as well as an easier building to use. So that is our preliminary design report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. And of course, if you'd like to see any of the materials, I'd be glad to show you those as well.
Bob, any comments from the subcommittee?
Well, we spent a lot of time Tuesday with this presentation going over the preliminary plan. A lot more fun talking about this black sewer line. We're very excited to present this preliminary plan when it comes with the subcommittee's hearty recommendation.
Questions?
I have some questions. Thank you for a great presentation. I love the animation part. Always good to have that.
Thank you. Sorry it crashed.
That's okay. It's wonders of technology. Tell me a little bit about how this building would translate into a banquet facility.
Well, we have, we did actually have a rendering, and I can go back to that if that's okay.
Certainly.
One of the cutaways, we have the capability to have banquets in this building, and it's actually in the in the animation, so I can't show you that.
Okay.
It shows, it's one of these that's in the animation, where we show banquet tables and we show a curtained area and a stage. We have, for example, in our FF&E budget, we do have a small budget to do a portable stage or platform, more of a platform than a stage. It has the capability to do banquets, and it's largely related to the fact that our main kitchen and commissary is going to be located in this building, which will serve not only this building, but the greater Fair Park. So we have the capability to produce, in the order of magnitude of 3,000 to 4,000 meals on a short order in this kitchen. Now, it obviously depends on who the food concessionaire is and what their capabilities are, but at this point, the square footage of the kitchen and commissary is approximately of that capacity. And of course, we have large open floor space. We will have furniture to accommodate banquets. The platform will have the ability to rig in this building. In other words, hang things. We will have hanging capacity, and some of the rigging equipment is part of that FF&E package. So if you can decorate it, then it can be used for a very large banquet space.
Have you figured out what maximum seating capacity could be?
The maximum seating capacity, we haven't gone through a maximum because actually the maximum exceeds the kitchen capacity.
Okay.
It will be roughly half of the building is a reasonable capacity. But we haven't gone to a great deal of study on banquets. We know that the building is larger than what we need for that purpose.
Well, Oklahoma City is greatly crying for venues that can handle 700 people and above on a very regular basis and competing terrifically for the few spaces that we have. And certainly this provides the kind of blank canvas that a lot of these events want to bring in their own decor and really transform a blank space into something.
True, and we'll be able to far exceed 1,000 guests in a banquet setting.
And what about abilities to use AV and technology during those shows? Will there be interface equipment?
Yes, there will be interface. We actually have, not only through the floor box system itself, where we'll have data connections. Well, the building will have Wi-Fi, and there will also be, where we do have columns, we have accessibility to data systems at all those column locations as well. And there will be some in certain rigging points in the structure itself.
Okay. And then have you considered any areas on the exterior of the building that could be constructed so that outdoor signage on a very large scale could be offered as an upgrade to an event or show and rent that space as well?
We have considered it. We considered it, in fact, pretty heavily in our very early design for both ends of the building to actually be able to receive LED technology, either mesh or large panels, which would display potentially sponsor information or event information, even live video from what's happening inside that venue. And what we're going to do is provide the pathways to deliver, or actually the bridge to actually install that, but not actually install that technology because it's outside of our budget at this point. So, in other words, we hopefully have the system, or the kind of the backbone in place and the pathways to get the cabling to those points, but right now we don't have the money in our budget to install that technology, and that's part of one of the alternates. We were looking at actually some large format LED in the entry lobby.
And then when I look at a building like this, it just screams green roof to me. And having an area where you could have small plantings, I mean, just with all the agricultural uses for that building, is that totally out of the realm to have a portion of that could be utilized in that fashion?
We have actually not discussed that. It's the high portion of the roof, the larger portion of the roof that actually covers the hall is somewhat impractical because of its height and accessibility to it. At one point, we did actually, in one of our early designs, we actually did have a mezzanine area with an elevator, and the next thing you know, you have other stairwells and things, and it became a real cost factor for us to actually transport the public up into the building. So that would obviously be a significant cost factor in that area as well, because we would have to have those conveyance means if we did that. Something could be possible on one of the lower roofs. However, at this point, almost 100% of our lower roofs are occupied by building service requirements, such as mechanical units. So we don't have actually much space that would be conducive to that.
And then I see that insulation is listed currently as an option on the budget. Does that
No,
mean-
it's a different insulation
Okay.
type.
All right.
The building is fully insulated.
That's what I wanted to hear. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Michael?
How is the building partitioned off for smaller events?
It will be with portable partitions, probably curtaining systems.
Just curtaining? I mean,
We don't have-
it's not going to be secure from one area to the other?
We do not have rigid, divisible partitions in the building budget at this time. We actually did consider that as well. We considered 2 of them to split it into 3 halls very early in the process. However, given the market for the building expressed by the management of State Fair, primarily the shows that they're seeking that are new events basically have a requirement of approximately 200,000 square feet. And when we look back at our, actually the analysis done of State Fair Park events a couple of years ago, where they went and met with all of the key events that currently occur there, such as the Quarter Horse Trade Show, the Fair of the Heart, by what they projected their growth to be, and immediately being able to use more space in a new building, that there was not much justification for spending actually over $1 million to put just one partition in this building. So we removed it because most of the space, most of the users were going to use more than 2/3 of the building anyway.
I assume they have other facilities for the smaller events, smaller venues for
we still have, the Cox Pavilion, which was re-roofed about 5 years ago, has new mechanical, electrical systems. It's a very nice building now, which is about 70,000 square feet. So we do have other venues on the site that allow us, some flexibility in not having to make this try to do everything.
Okay. And then you mentioned the commercial kitchen. Is the budget include equipping that kitchen?
Our construction budget does not include the equipment.
So how is that perceived to be done?
It's our understanding that that is part of will be part of the food concessionaire's contract. We have similar experience. This same design team did Barn 3 at State Fair Park, which includes the cafe, and that was the same process we went through there. We did not provide the kitchen equipment. Ovations provided the kitchen equipment as part of their long-term service contract. And I would have to defer any other answer related to that to State Fair, Inc.
Well, I wanted to offer an opportunity to Tim O'Toole, who's a member of the subcommittee and also the CEO at the State Fair, and wanted to offer him a chance to provide any additional comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To answer your question on that, yes, that is all the kitchen equipment for this project will be furnished by State Fair, Inc., just like we were on the cafe project.
I didn't think 500,000 was going to equip a commercial kitchen like that.
That 500,000 is just for furniture and small equipment items and perhaps some lifts to operate the facility. The vast majority, it'll be about $1.5 million will be invested in the concession equipment there, and we will either pay that ourselves through our obligation or make an arrangement to a long-term arrangement with a concessionaire and concede part of our income to justify the equipment expense for that. But we knew early on in this project to maintain the square footage that we needed for the building that we needed to pull the kitchen equipment out of the project so we could stay in budget. Okay. So that's just something we'll do under our operating agreement.
Okay. And then I guess these projects like this have an art requirement, a certain percentage go to art. Have you discussed that?
That has to do with the city's ordinance that's been in effect for quite some time, the 1%, I believe, off of the construction site.
That's right, it's 1%.
That's included in here somewhere?
It's a line item right there on it.
Oh, okay. Very good, thanks.
Tim, any other comments you'd want us to think about?
No, we're excited about it. We're looking forward to moving into the next phase. And as Todd mentioned, obviously the question about the videos and AV equipment and those things, those are alternates that, from our perspective as an operator, those are priority items. But those are items that not only are good for the consumer public that shows up, but those are the type of items that are very critical for the performers who want to bring shows to the building and to get repeat business, that know that those capabilities are there both for them and the exhibitors that come to the building. So that's our highest priority on that alternate list that you saw, is to upgrade that, which would include some form of closed-circuit television system with monitors inside the building throughout it, through all the shows.
Other questions?
Well, very good, thank you very much. Sure.
Well, thank you for that report then. If there are no other questions, shall we approve this resolution? Been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution approving the preliminary report for the State Fairgrounds improvements. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. It is approved. David, would you take us to item 10?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Item 10 is recommend resolution approving amendment number 2 and contract renewal to contract for engineering consulting services with Jacobs Engineering Group Incorporated for MAPS 3 Transit Modern Streetcar Project. Fee increase of $1,500,000 retroactive to July 1st, 2013. Project M3-S003. If you recall, we have a contract with Jacobs, and they've been doing work with us. They were the ones that helped us establish the route that has come through this body. This is an amendment and a renewal of that contract as we continue on with the design of the streetcar. We anticipate that this portion of the contract will include preliminary design, rail selection and procurement, and then car selection also. So I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Even though it's a fee increase, it does not increase the budget.
That's right. It's within the budget.
It's within the budget. Are there other questions? I guess, Nathaniel, I'll offer you the chance to campaign for this.
Sure. We discussed it briefly and approved it, so I would move acceptance.
Great. Is there a second? Been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution. Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The resolution is approved. That brings us to item 11, new business. David or any member of the subcommittee have an item of new business for consideration?
No, sir, we do not.
Item 12, the MAPS 3 Citizens Advisory Board Subcommittee reports. We've heard from several of the subcommittees. Any subcommittee that wants to offer a comment for us to consider today? Michael and Gloria, how are we doing on the senior wellness centers? We're still negotiating with the...
Yes, Tom, the subcommittee did not meet this month, and we expect that at our November meeting that staff will come back with a recommendation to move forward with a contract.
Thank you. Anybody else? I want to mention about the Convention Center subcommittee did not meet this month, but you'll recall we reported last month that we had reviewed the preliminary design concept, that it fit on the site. It would accommodate a proposed convention center hotel. It provided for expansion and development, and that the preliminary report design concept was within the budget. And the Populous, our consultant, is back looking at it to see if there are any alternatives that might expand the exhibit halls. But we would expect next month to be bringing to the subcommittee and then forward to this committee a proposed preliminary design concept for approval that we would that would be considered. So that's a report from the Convention Center subcommittee. Kim?
Just quickly to add on to that a little bit, the Park Subcommittee did not meet this month as well, but we are still working on the consideration for the approval of the master plan, which we're hoping in November. And last month, Populous and Hargraves, along with other project members, met together, and Hargraves is very excited about what Populous has come up with the Convention Center and the interaction between. So I love the spirit of working together and excited to see it all move forward.
Tom?
Yes.
On the Convention Center, there was something in the paper the last couple of days with some conceptual drawings. That was presented to you last month, or was that something new?
Yes, that was presented to us a month ago, and as I've already said, it met many of the criteria. One of the things that some of the subcommittee members wanted to look at were alternatives that would cost, that would achieve greater exhibition hall space, and maybe greater meeting room space. And the reason that the initial design doesn't do that is because it would take us outside the budget. So they're looking at alternatives about how that might be done, and we expect to hear from them at the November meeting and understand what alternatives are available for us. But I think generally the design concept was viewed favorably by the committee. We didn't vote on it because it wasn't in the form to vote on yet. But I expect that we'll be doing that this month, and then that you will see it. And if you'd like to look at it in more detail, the maps office has it, and maybe is it on our website? Could they see the design concept that we were presented last month, David?
You can always go out and see the presentations that were given. If you go out to the previous meetings, there'll be links to that. But if you have trouble with that, just give us a call and we'll get it to you.
I guess I noticed on there, it looked like they had, along the boulevard, the convention center wasn't going to front the boulevard. They're now proposing that be for private development.
The concept that we've seen, I won't try to recreate it visually, but it calls for the convention center to have a 360-degree, what I want to say, front door. That is to say, no back door. And that loading docks and so forth will be below grade, but it would be, as you say, would not be contiguous to, in its current form, the boulevard. It's on the northern half of the site, and there is room south of that to expand the convention center, and there would also be room on the south side of the convention center site for private development along the boulevard if that were to become available. And then on the east side of the site would be the site of a proposed convention center hotel. And all of that, as I probably have poorly described, is shown on the drawing, and that is the concept that was presented to us. Yes.
I had not seen the idea of
yes.
private development along the boulevard there. So
yes.
Something different.
Thinking that maybe that provided the best opportunity for that. Was there anything you wanted to add to that, David?
No, sir.
Okay. If there are no other subcommittee reports, let's go to the informational items. Unlucky 13 is yours, David.
Okay. You have in your packet some informational items. The first one is the acquisition map for the River Trail. And you can see that we've got offers and purchases that have been made, and there's 2 that are in litigation right now. So this one's still continuing on. We hope to get to a point where we can go ahead and set this one out for bid also. Karen, go ahead. This is the acquisition for the trail that Rudy will be doing. You can see that it's either been purchased or it's under contract. There's just some title issues on these parcels that we've got to clear up, and soon we'll have all the property on that. Then you'll see items C and D are just acquisition items. One of them is for the Trails project, and then D is for the convention center, very small piece on the convention center.
Any questions about any of those informational items? If not, then, David, is there anything that we haven't already covered that you wanted to talk about in the program report?
I can. There's just a few things I'll remind that for the river, the windscreen is in design, the whitewater facility is in design, and there's been some videos that have been made available, and I encourage you to go out and look at those. And then Phase 2 improvements will be bid next week for the river. As we mentioned on senior wellness, negotiations continue. Trails and sidewalks, we talked a lot about that today, but Phase 1 Project 1 and 2 is under construction. Phase 1 trails, We had a contract today, and then we've also got one still in design waiting on that right away. But Phase 2 sidewalk we saw today, and then Phase 2 trails are in design. So we have a lot of trails and sidewalks projects that are in various stages, but we're building some of that now. You mentioned the convention center. It still continues. We saw a lot on the fairgrounds today. The Phase 1 parking continues, and that expo design, once approved, will go into final plan design. Streetcar, we have that contract today, so as soon as we get that contract approved by council, we'll be able to get them started on the preliminary plans for the streetcar and the other items that I had mentioned. And then, as Ms. Lowe mentioned, the design of the master plan continues on the park, so still very busy.
David, would you also want to comment about the proposed change of schedule? We'll be meeting a week early in November. Is that date the Thursday, the 21st, will be the meeting of the Citizens Advisory Board?
In November, yes. It's essentially 1 week earlier because of the holidays.
Some people wanted to spend Thanksgiving with their families. So here we are. So, and then you'll receive notices about the subcommittee meetings that will be set, but this group will meet on the 21st at 10 o'clock, which is a week earlier than usual.
Right, and then 19th in December.
Oh, yeah. And so the 19th of December, the 21st of November and the 19th of December. Okay. Anything else, David? No, sir. All right. Want to offer the opportunity for any members of the board that have a comment that they'd like to offer for us today?
Tom, I look forward to this evening and to your recognition by the Neighborhood Alliance. I believe it's called the Good Neighbor Award, and it's well deserved, and I look forward to seeing you this evening. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. It's recognition for being part of a team that I'm proud to be part of. So I hope that some of you can come. That would be great. Staff, anybody else from the staff have a comment? Okay, this is the chance then to anybody, a citizen that's here that would like to address the Citizens Advisory Board. Anyone? Wow, a lot of good-looking citizens out there. Okay. Someone want to move we adjourn? It's been moved. Is there a second? All in favor say aye. We're adjourned. Thank you for coming. Well, Pete, I'm a little behind goal. I like to get it over with in an hour, but